Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are back with another book review. And yes, it's another Colleen Hoover book, November 9th. So let's get to it. So I just finished November 9th, and I just finished this last night. I like to do these book reviews as soon as I finish the book, so everything is really fresh in my mind so I can talk about them with you. I've kind of been on a Colleen Hoover kick. I promise I will be doing a different book review for you by a different author soon. But I just love her. I love her books. And there are a few others that I want to read, but I'm going to kind of switch it up for the next book review and do a different author, and then maybe we'll possibly come back to my Colleen Hoover because I do love her books. So the book I read is November 9th. Now, I read this one after Ugly Love, so if you haven't seen that book review, go check it out. But I read it after that just because they do touch base with just some of the characters from Ugly Love. So if you are looking at reading November 9th, I do suggest reading that one first. It's not like it's a major thing in here and you could read this and be just fine, but it kind of like is cool that they touch on to that a little bit. So I would just read it in that order. I thought it was neat to be able to see those characters, so I would definitely read Ugly Love first and then November 9th. But this book was really good. It was a little slow starting. I wasn't sure if I was gonna like it or not, but I definitely got into it with the Colleen Hoover style. I like how she always draws you in with different things that are happening. And I love that she always does from a girl's point of view to a guy's point of view, switching it up every chapter. Now, November 9th has the lead characters, and I hope I say their names right, but I'm going to say it as Fallon and Benton, which we're going to call him Ben because that's a little bit easier, but I hope I'm saying them right. But those are your two main characters. They're about the same age. They're fresh out of school. 18, I think, is how old they both are. They're living in LA and they meet. So they actually meet together. Actually, Fallon is getting ready to move across country. She's going to be moving to New York City. He's staying in LA. So they are going to meet up every single year because she believes that you can't find love until you're 23. It's a promise that she made to her mother. So she wants to wait the 5 years. So they come up with this plan that they are not going to have any communication, no social media, no cell phone calls, no meeting up whatsoever, except on this exact date, November 9th, at an exact time at a certain place. So they are planning to do that for the next 5 years so that they can go after their goals. So the whole thing kind of inspires Ben to write this book about November 9th. And so he can write down everything that they do, everything that they experience, and write a book. Now, Fallon is an actress. She was a very successful actress, but then she ended up being in a house fire, so she is burned severely on one side of her body, and so her acting has kind of been put on pause. So she's actually moving to New York so that she can proceed with trying to be an actress on Broadway. So that is her whole reason for moving to New York. They meet that day, she flies out that night. They spend the whole day together, they come up with this plan, then she flies out, and then the next year they meet on November 9th. So it's kind of cool to see kind of how their lives have changed and their perspectives on life have changed when they do meet up again. I thought it was really neat. I really liked reading about it. I got really excited when it would come to the next November because it seemed like every November that they had, there was like some sort of turmoil. So I liked when we got to a new November and it would lead up. So now getting into the spoiler alert. So if you haven't read this and you don't want spoilers, shut this off now. We're gonna get into it. So they meet up every November 9th. And the first November 9th that she goes, that's the first time they met. Then she comes back for another November. They meet up. It goes really, really well for them. But then she flies. She only came in quickly because she wasn't even sure he was going to meet her at the restaurant. So she was kind of scared. She planned her flight that night because if he didn't show up, then it would be less embarrassing if she flew back that night. So they didn't get a lot of time together that night either. Then the next November, he was supposed to go to New York, but he can't go. He ends up calling her up. His brother has passed away. So she instead surprises him and flies back to him. They talk about actually making the relationship work instead of doing this silly only once a year thing. But then she gets discouraged because she thinks he won't proceed with staying in LA. His family kind of needs him since his brother died. He's in the middle of writing this book. He just signed an agent. So she's worried if they decide to start dating, because he offered to move to New York, that she would crush his goals. So she ends it and says, let's just stick to this November 9th thing. Then the next November 9th, they actually meet up again in LA, but this time he's seeing someone, which totally devastates Fallon, and they have a big blowout again. Well, then the next one is probably my favorite November 9th, but they actually meet up. He searches for her because she doesn't show up to the restaurant. So he searches for her, finds her, and convinces her to be with him. And so she does. They decide to go all in. And then again, we're left with heartache because we find out that Ben, sweet Ben, has been keeping a secret from us. And I'm going to keep that secret from you just in case you're still watching this and want to read this book. I feel like some secrets are good, so I'm not going to tell you what that secret is. This is crushing to Fallon. So she ends the relationship again, this time never to speak to him again, gets a restraining order against our Ben, and then the next year is November 9th again. He delivers to her door without seeing her, I'm sure following the laws of the restraining order, his manuscript, because he wants her to know the truth, because she never took the time to learn that truth from him. So she reads this manuscript and then they meet up again. So that is the story of the November 9th. They end up meeting up several times, and this last time is the final one. Now, I will say this. I wish they would have just ended the book at the November 9th before this one, before she finds the secret. I kind of wish there was no secret. The way that they met up, the way that he did such big productions and trying to win her love, I would have loved if the book would have ended there. I didn't need the drama. I didn't want the rest of the book. I would have been solely happy with that being the ending of the book. Now, I know that's not Colleen Hoover's way, but that's where I would have ended it. It was so romantic. The gestures that he did in that, they met up in a club, the way that he did things, that's how I would have wanted the book to end. So that would have been the happy ending for me versus going on to a second November 9th. I think it would have been, in my opinion, it would have been better. But that's because I like happy endings, and that was he did so many romantic gestures that night that I felt like that would have just topped the book. But overall, this is a really good book. I still think Confess is probably my favorite Colleen Hoover book, but this one was enjoyable. I also really like Ugly Love, but this one was good. Rating out of a 5-star, I'm going to give it a 3-star. And the reason I'm going to give it a 3-star is because of that final November 9th. I think it would have been better if we would have ended it at the club. Now, you might argue with me, but that's my opinion. That's how I feel. So I'm going to give it a 3-star rating. I still love Colleen Hoover, and I can't wait to read more of her books. I think she's an excellent author. So I'll be excited to read more. But let me know what you thought of the book. What was your star rating on this? Was it one of your favorites? I'd love to hear from you in the comments. I'd love to open up the discussion of November 9th or any of her other books. let me know. If you guys enjoyed this video, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, click the subscribe button and the little bell so you get notified when I post my next video. Thanks for watching.